So as we return to the Yamaha CS3 build, we'll start to remove the headlight fitting and sort of untangle all of the wires that go inside the headlamp bucket. The bucket and the ears will be removed along with the tack and the speedo. The speedo, you remember, is damaged, and we've got a good second-hand replacement. We'll also remove the indicators, and at least then we can slide off the triple clamp on the top, and also remove the ears that'll go along with the bucket to our painter. So as you finish up the wiring, just removing and undoing everything, I recommend getting your camera out and taking a few pictures. Yamaha are generally pretty good with their color codes, and the colors of their wires typically match, so it's quite straightforward, but always useful to have some pictures. So as we take the last of the clips off, you can pull the gauges away from the bracket, and then I just want to give the bracket a check that it's still straight. Obviously the bike has been in an accident, the tank was dented, and given that the speedo is so badly beaten up, I suspect that the bracket may be a bit twisted too. And they're very thin, they're pretty easy to bend with your hand, and just by rocking it on a flat surface I can see it's a little off. So we'll get that straightened and ready to go off to paint. So as we return to the bike, we'll finish off removing the side stand, the right hand exhaust. The left one's already off. The exhaust will be stripped, and we'll burn out the old oil. I know they're a little sticky in there. There was a lot of two-stroke oil coming out of both pipes, so I think they're pretty gummed up. Passenger footrests we'll take off. We'll disassemble those so that we can re-zinc the footrest pieces, and we'll change the rubbers. It's one of those things that's always nice to do. It just makes little detail makes a difference when you're doing a makeover. As we strip the carbs off, it'll give us a little bit more room to take off the airbox. And as we're going to be pulling the engine to clean it and removing the cylinders and the heads, removing the carbs at this point will also just make the engine a little bit lighter before we lift it off. So with the right carb off, we can take the airbox off. Both carburetors will be stripped, vapor blasted. We'll put some new gaskets in, which are on their way from Yamaha. All of the rubber parts will be replaced. So we switch back over to the chassis and the chain guard. I'm using a vessel screwdriver. You can buy these in sets on Amazon. They're really good. They're JIS heads which fit the screws perfectly, but they don't help you if you don't take the third screw off, which is hidden underneath. So once we've got that screw off, we can lift off the chain guard, give it a clean. It'll actually clean up really well. It looks in pretty good shape. So we'll move on to taking off the left and right turn signals. They're unplugged, removed from the harness, and then we can get to work on taking the two bolts that secure the back of the fender. There's also a couple lower down at the front by the frame that we've already removed. And then we'll just carefully remove the wiring harness for the tail light from the main harness, and just feed it through so that we can lift the fender off. The fender's actually not in bad shape. That's going to clean up really well too. A lot of the chrome is, to make it perfect, it would need to be redone, but that's not the purpose on this machine. We're actually just going to make a nice makeover rather than actually replace the chrome on every single piece. So with the brake cable and the tack undone, we can feed those through the fender, and then go to work on just removing the fender bolts. We can lift off the front fender. That'll also just have a clean up. It actually looks in pretty good shape. We'll clean the underneath as well. You can actually see rust on the underside. We'll get rid of all of the rust on the underside too. It'll just stop it deteriorating further. So with the fender lifted off, we'll move backwards again. We'll take the side stand off. The side stand will be painted along with a mounting bracket, and we'll also be replacing the rubbers on the footrests, which are pretty beaten up. So as we continue with the CS3, we've got it pretty much stripped down now to a point where the bulk of the work can start. We've discovered a few interesting things. We've discovered that the coils are connected up the wrong way around, which is why the plug leads are crossed, and certainly gave me a few headaches when I was trying to get it running. I couldn't work out after why, when we reset the timing, that the bike just backfired and sounded like it was 180 degrees out, because it wasn't far off. Apart from that, we did, after cleaning up the headstock and taking off the gauges, we did discover a crack in the upper mount, which we'll need to replace. I think that's probably a result of the accident that dented the tank, and although it's probably, I don't know if you can see, if I try and line myself up with the forks, you can see the bars are pretty badly bent. I've never had a lot of success straightening bars. We'll give it a go, but they're actually quite hard to find these, so I'm hoping we'll be able to work a little bit of magic and get those back. The bike's running fine now. It actually sounds really strong. We are going to be having the side covers off, so when we take the side covers off, we will change the crank seals on the left and the right side. We'll leave the center seal for now. The bike's not going to be heavily used, so rather than split the cases at this point, we'll risk it and see what happens. The voltage regulator, we had a little challenge with the bike overcharging. We were getting almost 17 volts at 3500 RPM. We found there's 3 different sets of points inside the voltage regulator. There's it's a combination regulator rectifier, and it's also a starter solenoid in there too. But we found that the wire to the regulator was actually cracked and had come apart. So poor old girl's looking pretty dusty and dirty, but it'll clean up pretty well. We've got waiting for parts now before we strip the wheels and refinish the wheels. We're going to re-zinc the spokes. We're also going to re-zinc the nipples and make sure that they get back to their original coppery bronze gold color. From there we'll replace chain, tires, rear tires pretty cracked and not really safe to use. And then some of the more visible pieces, as this is not a full concourse restoration, we'll blast and powder coat these, change the rubbers. And for now, that's kind of where we're at, but I think it should start to look really nice by the time we get these last few pieces off and start the work of actually cleaning and refurbishing. So as we move the frame of the bike over to the bench, we're going to turn our attention to the coils, which are wired incorrectly. The right is wired to the left points and the left points are wired to the right coil. So I was having to run the bike with the coil, the plug leads crossed over, which isn't correct and doesn't look good. So we'll switch that over. We'll put a couple of new screws in as well, 2 new JIS screws in the bracket. The old ones were pretty chewed up, which is also a telltale sign they've been off before. So while we're working on the coils, I took both of the plug leads off to trim off the leads. I just want to make sure there's a good connection between the lead and the coil, and it's also a good time just to check the plug caps. It's strange, even though the bike was actually seemed to be running well on the bench, one of the caps had absolutely no resistance at all, which shows it's faulty. So one was good, one was bad. So given that they're both probably original, we changed those out. So after carefully removing the engine from the frame, we'll just take a few minutes to remove probably 40 years of grease and grime that's built up and splashed all over the back of the engine. It's all over the gearbox sprocket side as well. Just be really careful if you do this to make sure that you've got the engine perfectly sealed, that you've sealed. We've got some little rubber plugs jammed into the inlet manifolds, and also the same on the exhaust side too. So we'll give this a nice clean up, remove the grease, which is much easier to do when it's in the tank, in the solvent tank, and this will look so much better, be so much cleaner when we drop this back into the frame. The new ignition switch has arrived, so we can tidy up some of these old connections where previous owners cut the male and female bullet connectors off of the wiring harness. So now we've got the new switch, we can match up, install new connectors, crimp them on, and then just check the resistance to make sure that the connections are sounding good. But this will tidy up the ignition switch and mean that once we're ready to bolt that on to the headstock near the gauges, we should have a nice new old stock switch all fitted and working. So before we disassemble the wheels, we're just going to measure the offset so that when we re-spoke them, we know we get the rim positioned in the right place. So I'm actually just going to move this towards the edge of my bench and then just get a measurement from each side. So I've got 19mm from the brake side, and I've got 11mm from the front side. So now we'll just carefully loosen all the spokes, take them off. We're lucky that this rim is in pretty good condition, so we'll carefully just start to loosen each spoke, give it half a turn, 3/4 of a turn, just to start to take the tension off the rim. And by the time you start to get halfway round, a lot of the spokes should actually come loose pretty quickly. This wheel actually came apart really nicely. I was lucky that the spokes weren't, the nipples weren't too corroded inside the rim, and I was just able to gently loosen them up with a screwdriver. Same thing we did with the front, we're going to do with the rear, and just check the offset. So measuring from a flat, my caliper, I've got 9mm. And 34mm. So now we've got the two rims totally broken down. We'll get them in the washer and clean off all the old brake dust and grease from the chain, and we'll clean up these surfaces so that the new brake shoes have something nice to bite onto. So it doesn't look much, but we've got all of the hardware, all the nuts, the bolts, even the toolkit that was in the bike. We've got those all lined up and degreased. We've put them in the parts washer just to get off the grease and oil. And the next step will be to work on some of the surfaces that'll be the most visible, and we'll do that by just putting them in our vapor blaster, giving them a clean up, and they should be then in nice condition, ready to go to the zinc plater. So with the frame all cleaned, you can see the chrome work came out really well, as we suspected it might. The chain guard, shocks, rear fender, and just look at those rims. The front and rear rims cleaned up really nicely. We removed the surface rust, degreased, polished. The rear fender's back on. We're using temporary hardware because the zinc won't be back for a couple of days yet. The hubs are clean, ready to go in the vapor blaster, and we'll be going through the process of those next to vapor blast them so they brings back the natural raw finish of the aluminum before we then polish, put the grain finish back in, which you'll see visible through the ceramic clear that we'll use on top to protect them for future. So with the engine out of the bike, it's ready now for its kind of cosmetic makeover. We'll remove the cylinders this week and give it a decoat while it's apart. We'll replace the head gaskets, the base gaskets. We'll hone the bores. We will clean up the oil pump. The side covers will be removed and painted, and while the side covers are off and we're actually down this far, I could see that the crank seal on the left hand side, whilst it's okay and it's still pretty supple, I can see it's moved and it has actually started to push its way out. So we'll replace the outer crank seals and hope for the best on the central crank seal between the two cylinders. The bike ran really well, compression was good, didn't have any running issues, so hopefully at this point the customer doesn't really want to do a full nut and bolt rebuild on the engine unless we really have to. So we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching episode 2 of the CS3 build. If you liked our channel, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.